I don't know if you're like me, but there seems to be some items that never seem to go back onto the pegboard or never seem to get put away into a drawer. Because it seems as soon as you do, you're having to pull it out to use it to work on something again. So there are certain things that kind of stay on my workbench, but I'll get it cleaned off when I get through with a few more things. You may recognize this. This is the suction supply for the stack in a standard pneumatic action. And I have it apart right now because there is a hole in the mounting screws. There's 4 of them. One of the holes is very questionable. In fact, it won't tighten. A screw will not tighten into it. It just keeps spinning. So what am I going to do with this thing? Well, let's be honest. Here are the holes. 1, 2, 3, 4. The wood is maple. And to plug a hole such as this, don't ever drill down parallel into the screw hole. That's asking for troubles. Because when a screw does finally go into it to pull together a joint, such as like this is going to do, eventually that screw is going to pull that plug out of there like a cork coming out of a bottle, even if it's glued in. Which brings me to this. I don't know whether you realize that yellow glue, carpenter's glue, creeps. And by creep, I mean it will slowly allow the joint to move if it's under any sort of pressure. So keep that in mind, that yellow glue is always going to creep. Epoxy, a good industrial epoxy is not going to creep, nor does hot hide glue creep. They stay where they were put basically for as long as the glue exists. Anyway, let's get back to this. 4 holes. Bottom one's good, 2 side ones are good. The top one, it just allows the screw to continue spinning at it. So don't drill in on the screws to plug them with a bigger piece of wood. Please don't use a matchstick or anything like that. All right. You'll see already I have drilled down with a 1/4 inch drill bit to accommodate a 1/4 inch plug that will go into it. Now I'll orient the grain in the plug so that the grain in the plug will run this way, which means that when the screw goes in, it will grab hold of side grain, which is exactly what you want it to do. End grain, nothing. But you go into the side grain and you'll get a great grip out of it. So here's the hole that has been drilled in it, 1/4 inch. It extends down practically to right here. So when I go to put the 1/4 inch dowel, and I'll knurl it to make sure it has the ability to release some of the strain from it, because it's going to swell, believe it or not. It goes in, it will go down to this point. I will trim off the excess, wait for it to dry, and when it's dry, I will put a small pilot, well, I say a small pilot hole, big enough to accommodate almost the shank, not the screws, but the shank of the screw, big enough for that to pass through. And I guarantee you, that is considered a pretty permanent repair. And once this is sanded flush and all of this, it's perfectly acceptable. And again, it will last. Whereas the other one, it will not. I'm guaranteeing you, it's eventually going to fail. Then we'll also cover how to put a gasket on here. Now, remember, this mates with the backside of the standard stack. So it's going to have a piece of leather go on here to provide as airtight a connection as possible. And then down here, where the actual tube goes in, attaches, it'll be sanded flush and it put on. Oh, one thing to bring up, when you're servicing a component, whether it's a deck, whether it's the main chest, whether it's a component like this, the wind chest, not the wind chest, the wind motor chest, when you get it all taken apart and do any sort of drilling or anything, or scrape loose filaments of glue, vacuum it out. Because remember, all of this inside here can be sucked in, and it can get sucked into your pump. So you don't want all these bits and pieces of wood and hardened glue to go into your pump. Suck it out thoroughly with your shop vac or whatever suction means you have. Be done with it. And you'll rest assured that you're minimizing the amount of debris that can possibly go down through things. So, off to get me a 1/4-inch plug. I'll get this taken care of. What will I glue it in with? Yeah, I believe in hot hide glue tremendously. For something like this, which I don't anticipate anyone ever really having to come along and take it apart again, I'm going to use carpenter's glue, but remember, I'm going to orient it so the grain is running across in the plug, and it will have a good grip. Oh, and let me mention something also. When it comes to putting the gasket onto this, first it has to be made flat. You have to get a flat surface, either a thick piece of glass or a piece of flat piece of marble. Put a piece of sandpaper on it. This would probably take about a 240, maybe a 320, and sand it back and forth on a smooth surface until you get it shiny. Then to make a good, absolutely accurate gasket, use the stamp pad. Isn't that amazing? Can usually get the stupid thing open quickly. Use a stamp pad, put this down into it. Look, you rub it a couple of times, you're going to get some ink on there. Look right now. You see that it's not flat. Look at that. It's not flat. It's not getting a complete imprint of ink. Even though I'm pushing evenly, it's not. Look, that is a low spot. So that's suspect right there. That's got to be sanded until all of this is flat for the best results, okay? Which is what everyone wants, the best results. Anyway, do that. Take your piece of leather, push it onto it, and you're going to get a perfect imprint of this gasket, of this, this flanged nipple. You'll get a perfect imprint. So that'll get sanded. The plug will be put in. It'll be vacuumed out. New gasket. So it'll be fun. Look what I did find, though. These were filthy. That's just crud. Look what I found. Can you see that? It says circuit coat, which I assume is circuit court. So these are just little shims to lift this suction supply up to the height that previous people set it at, whether it was the factory or the previous restorer. Yep, you never know what you're going to find inside these babies. Now, if you really wanted to, you can sand this. You can scuff it with like a 240. Scuff this surface, scuff this surface, scuff this. Leave this alone except when you put it on a perfectly flat surface and sand it with 320 to get it perfectly flat. But you can sand them. And once you get it, the old finish sanded off, you can do a French polishing on it. Which if you want to see and hear more about the French polishing way of getting parts looking really nice, even ones that were painted black, then I'll show you. It's not hard, but you cannot waste time with French polishing. Once you start it, you got to go with it. So, but good thing is, if you make a mistake, if you accidentally stop in the middle of a piece and it makes a ridges or an imprint in it, you sand it off. No harm. I mean, you can get out of things as long as you know. As long as you know, it's not a matter of knowing what to do, it's knowing how to get out of things that happen. So, all right. Talk to y'all later.